Right, so we're going to look a little bit at area of triangles, how to calculate it, and what that equation is. So we'll start with looking at what is the equation to find the area of a triangle, and then after that we'll look at a couple quick examples of actually solving for the area of a triangle. So I'm going to start right here. We've got two triangles. We've got a green one and a blue one. The green one we can see is a right triangle. They are both acute triangles, and the bottom one is technically an equilateral. All three sides are the same. But to find those, we don't currently know an equation for the area of them, but we do know some other equations for shapes that are similar. And so if we take that top blue triangle and we were to make a copy of it and then spin it, we would see that it actually turns into a square. If it was a right triangle where the two sides are not isosceles, so they weren't the same, it would turn into a rectangle, but we do know the equation for the area of that. If we were to do the same thing with the green triangle, and put those pieces together, it would turn into a parallelogram, which we also know the equation for. So for a square, our equation is simply, we're going to take the base, and then we would want to multiply that by the height right here, which is our other measurement. And then for this same thing, when we have a parallelogram, to find the area of a parallelogram, we multiply the base by the height, and again the height is that up and down, straight up and down measurement going from the bottom to right to the top, so times the height right here. So we could find the area of these by simply saying the area of a triangle equals the base times the height. But then, since these triangles, I doubled each of them in order to make those shapes, we're going to have to divide that whole thing by 2. Sometimes you'll also see area equals 1/2. I'm just going to put BH, or base times height. So you could either multiply them and then divide by 2. You can multiply them by 1/2. It equals the same thing at the end. But that's really that's the equation that you need. So we'll get a couple quick examples of actually using it. So we've got a triangle right here. Now we want to be careful when we look at it. We've got the base right there, and we've got 2 measurements. So we want to think which one's the height, which one's the straight up and down measurement, and that is going to be this one right here. So we've got our base right here, and we've got our height right here. We're just going to put that in the equation of area equals base times height divided by 2. So I will simply do base is 15 times the height is 10 and have to divide the whole thing by 2, or 150 divided by 2, or 75 feet squared, because we always do squared when we're talking about area. That would be the area of that triangle. Another one right here. Now this one's a little bit more tricky because we have to think what is the base. Now right here, if we were to think this, take this and sort of tilt it a little bit so the base was flat on the ground, we'd end up with a shape that looks like this. But if we have that, we know we do not have the straight up and down height measurement. So we would have to rotate it actually a little bit differently so that we had both the base and then the straight up and down measurement. And then we're just going to use that same equation of area equals base times height divided by 2. Substitute in my values. I've got my base, as I said, right here. I've got my height right there. So we'll just put those right in. We would have 7 times 8 divided by 2, or 56 divided by 2, or 20, which equals 28 miles squared, would be our area. And then for our last one, we're going to find one of these kind of weird triangles like this. So we've got a scalene triangle right there. It's a obtuse scalene triangle, and we've got 4 different measurements. So we really have to think, okay, what's the base, the flat bottom part, and the height straight up and down. We can see our base is the part that's already actually flat, and then our height, if we're measuring straight from the bottom to the top, is actually going to be this 6 right here. So then we're just going to multiply those same things together. Again, area equals base times height divided by 2. substitute in my values. We've got 4 times 6 divided by 2, or 24 divided by 2, or 12 centimeters squared would be our area. So all you got to do, identify your base and your height of your triangle, multiply those together, and then divide by 2.